Hi, welcome to the Coaching Game. I'm Laurie Lawson, and tonight my guest is Win Sheffield. Hey, Win. Win has been a longtime friend, and every time I call him, I always get he's such a busy man. So we're going to find out what you've been doing, because you haven't been on the show for a long time now. So we're going to find out what's going on.
Glad to say I've been busy.
Me too. That's the best way to be. So Win is a career coach, and if you go, you're going to see his website at the bottom of the page. If you go there, you are going to be astounded at the variety and the quantity of some of the workshops that he offers. Tell us what you've been doing. Tell us, because when I think you came on maybe like, I'm going to say 4 years ago. What changes have you seen, or are there any changes? What changes have you seen in the field of looking for a job and creating careers and transforming into what you really want to be? What have you seen in since the last time we spoke?
So it's interesting. As a coach, I see some changes in the market, but I don't see a lot of changes in what people need.
Ah, that's good to know.
The kinds of things that happen when you're in the job market are the kinds of things that happen easily or not so easily. In other words, you still have to interview. You still have to figure out what it is that's important to you and what you want to do. You still have to put together a resume.
They're not obsolete yet,
They're not obsolete.
Okay.
Depending on whether the job market is hot or not, you may be lured into something you've done before, happily or unhappily.
Right.
But largely the work stays the same. What I find is that as I work with a lot of clients, I get different insights and have different ideas about what's going to work for people and how people are going to make their way forward as quickly as possible. So I learned some distinctions that seem obvious to some people, not obvious to others, and so I'm learning the whole time that I'm doing this.
And adapting. I like that, because I know that you've added some things to the offerings that you give to people that are in career transition or looking for so we're going to talk about that. But I wanted to ask you, because I've been curious, what is the difference between a resume and a profile? Because I know I had a headhunter contact me, and I said, okay, sure, I'll shoot you out a resume. And they go, oh, no resume, profile. I go, what's a profile? Okay.
So a resume is like a bell to Pavlov's dog, right? When somebody sees a resume, they go, they want a job from me.
There you go.
Right?
Quite simple, yes.
And oddly enough, that may not be the reaction you want to get from people, because most of the people who you're going to want to speak to, they don't have a job for you, and you're talking to them to learn more so that when you get a job in front of you, you can present yourself better.
Okay.
Okay, so if I am working at DuPont, to pick an out-of-date sort of industry, and I want to go work at Union Carbide, somebody may offer me a job at Union Carbide, and I'll send my resume in, and I may not know some things about the culture at Union Carbide that would really help in how I present myself and how I put myself together in a resume. So I'm putting in this thing which says, employ me, and it's looking and go, well, if that's what you wanted, you're not doing the right thing. Whereas if I put in a profile, which isn't in the form of a resume, it may have a lot of the same things. A resume will have where you worked and some descriptions about what you did there.
Tier-like, sort of, yeah.
But a profile is a biography. It's like a speaker's introduction. You know, when you're sitting in an audience and you hear, so-and-so has a background in this and has experience doing that, and one of his highlights was this or that. You go, wow, you get into paying attention to that background and thinking, oh, how could that background be helpful to me as a speaker or as an employee? So recruiters want to do a soft presentation to learn oh, well, then I have some questions about this part of his background or that part of his background or her background.
Right.
And that way you get a little feedback before you present yourself as the resume, which is, this is why you should employ me. It's more of a teaser.
Ah, okay, I love that. So the profile is the teaser, and then the resume is the concrete information that's going to back that teaser.
Eventually, you're going to need, for the places that go forward with you seriously, and not everybody will,
right,
you're going to need a resume.
Okay.
But that's not necessarily where you start.
Really? Where do you start?
With the profile.
Oh, okay. So as a teaser, appetizer, yeah. Well, then the entree is, I got you. Oh, okay. Thank you for the distinction, because I'm going, okay, so I quickly put together a profile, and I don't know what I'm doing. I should have called you. But, and they didn't ask for a resume, but I don't know why, but that's okay.
Right.
Between LinkedIn and all of that, you wonder, but you are highly recommending that everyone have a resume, yes?
Oh, yeah. And you're going to have a LinkedIn profile, which is very similar to your resume, and I don't think we need to get into all the differences.
Right,
but
right.
Because LinkedIn is one thing, and the resume, you can have more than one version, obviously there are going to be some distinctions.
Yeah.
So you, for your own benefit, even if no one finds you on LinkedIn, it is a benefit to you to be on LinkedIn and present yourself in a way so that when you reach out to people, they have a place to look and see that you have some credibility.
I think it's a sad commentary on our times, but it gives you validity. It gives you, you really exist. If you're not on LinkedIn, I don't know. It's like, I think people doubt your existence.
They may, and that's more of the who can find me on LinkedIn. But I'm saying there are so many ways to actively use LinkedIn for myself to find other people.
Yes, yes.
So you don't need to have a big, highly evolved LinkedIn profile unless you have a strategy of having people trying to reach out to you on LinkedIn. Remember that LinkedIn is much more valuable to you as a place where you reach out to others.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Wow, that's interesting, because I just collect people and I don't do anything with them. It's like, well, if I need them.
But you're probably not in the job market in the way that my clients are.
Right, not really.
And so when they need information and they need to talk to people, LinkedIn is like a Rolodex on steroids.
Wow, and you tell them how to use LinkedIn? And
sure.
Is that one of your things?
Yeah, that's
sure,
one of the things.
That's one of your things. What else do you tell them? I love that. I think when I stopped job hunting finally, the website and LinkedIn, I think it was just like a big business card. And as far as me presenting myself, it was a big business card, that you just keep for validity. Once again, I'll use that word.
Yeah.
But I love that you're saying, no, you can use it to help you get where you want to go too. Right. So that's worth, I'm sure if you look on his website, you're going to find a fantastic workshop that'll tell you that, right?
So the thing that's available on my website, if you look on my website, you will find a tab that says microcasts. Microcasts are 5-minute answers that I have produced to all kinds of career questions, resumes, interviewing, networking, and everything else, and LinkedIn. So you'll see the essence of a LinkedIn strategy and a couple of questions I answer about LinkedIn.
Wow.
That might be helpful.
When you hit his website, plan on staying for a while. There is so much of value there. It was like, I should print the whole website out. And it's like, no, I'm going to ask Win. He'll tell us what's going on. So great website, just so helpful. How long have you been doing this career stuff?
I guess I took my first client in the fall of 2003.
Wow.
So I've been doing it for a while.
Yeah. And I started back into career, because that wasn't my first thing, in 2008, because I kind of had an HR background. And 2008 was like, oh my God, everybody's either losing their jobs or fearful that they're going to lose their jobs, and everybody wanted out and in. And I went, okay, let me use my background. What changes are from that time? What changes have come about, and what's different in the marketing world? We know you still need a resume, so those are some constant things.
Right.
And I think it's great that there are constant things, because if I'm not you, I don't know what's updated. But so what has remained the same, and what's really gone off the wires here?
People still need people to get things done.
Hallelujah. Okay.
And there are all kinds of technological things that people talk about that mitigate against doing some of the things that we currently do.
Right.
But just as the people who were born to make buggy whips have found something else to do in a modern economy, same thing will happen in the technological economy. There will be things that people need people for.
Yeah.
And they're not all going to be brainiac kinds of jobs. So what we need to do is figure out what it is that we do now and have a very good sense of that. And when you ask about what's changed, it's gradual. But what we saw happening is in our fathers' and grandfathers' day, people went to work for a company and stayed with that company for 30 years. Now, that's changed. Why has that changed? Not because people have become disloyal and people have a lot of things they say about millennials, but companies, organizations, no longer need somebody to stick around. The reason it was valuable to have somebody stick around before was because the way in which the organization did business, the business model that they operated from, changed very little from year to year. Well, now, how many industries have we seen completely fall apart and change because of technology?
Sears, I mean, that's their biggest criticism. They didn't keep up.
Well, Sears, Kodak, Xerox,
Right. Yeah,
the publishing industry, the taxi and limousine industry, all of them are changing. So what that means for an organization is they need to adapt quickly. If they have somebody who knows how we did things 10 years ago, sorry, go find something else to do. That's not what we need now.
Wow.
So in the 15 years or so that I've been doing this, that trend has accelerated. So what we needed before was to be able to say, I worked for, to stick with my example, Union Carbide for 30 years, and I'm very valuable because I know how they do things there. Well, how they did things there was very smart
30 years ago.
30 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 10 years ago, or maybe 5 years ago.
Wow.
But it's no longer what's particularly relevant at this moment.
It's so funny. You know what I was thinking? I think, and this might be a good example. I know at some point, just the thing of taking money. At one point, it would be you would hand me the money, and I would make change in my head and give it back to you. Then there was the cash register that made the change for you. Then there was the credit card. Now we're at the point where they don't even want to see cash. No cash, no contact. Just stick your card in and be gone.
Right.
You know, and so how do you tell individuals, how do they adapt to that?
The most important thing that people need to think about is the distinction between expertise, which has to do with how we do things at a particular company or even within a particular industry, the language we use to talk about it, the way that we think about it. So I might do stick with the chemical industry, a vertical sector analysis of how our market is segmented. And I might do it by some chemical characteristic, highly volatile chemicals versus, or chemicals used by manufacturers as opposed to retail people using chemicals, or whatever it is. Now, there's a lot of chemical industry expertise in there, which you may or may not use going forward. But in addition to that, there is a real depth of skills and abilities around how you organize doing such a functional analysis and breakdown, about the idea of how you choose the categories that you break it down into, about how to use an Excel spreadsheet to convey and help you with that analysis. All of those skills and abilities, completely aside from your expertise, are really relevant in analyzing Lyft or Uber rides, right?
Okay,
So you're taking the things that you have, the in-depth, real knowledge of how to make an analysis work and inform your business model, and taking it from a chemical industry where it's no longer relevant to ride sharing where it's extremely relevant.
Okay.
Right? So all of you who are listening, have faith that there are skills and abilities which you have, which may require a little teasing out because we're so used to thinking about things in the context that we've learned them in, but they can be teased out. And when they are, you come away with really valuable skills, and then you can go and talk to people in the industries that sound interesting to you and see, listen, I do I do this kind of analysis, and I've done segmentation, and I do really great spreadsheet jockeying on Excel. Where are those used inside this industry? Now, you're not asking the interviewer that.
You're trying to figure it out before you get there.
That's right. That's the key, is to figure it out before you get there, so that when the interviewer asks you, you can say, well, you know, I bring a lot of skills and abilities here, and I really know how to apply it to your industry because you've talked to some people and know how to apply it in their industry.
Yeah.
So that you are coming in with a fresh perspective, in-depth skills and abilities that can be used like that in a new industry once you learn some vocabulary, much of which you may have learned before you walk into the interview.
Fantastic. I know one of the most rewarding coaching that I have done is when military, when they come back into society and they go, I've been driving a tank, or I've been, you know, and it's, oh, I have no skills. And it's like, wait a minute, you got tons of skills, and to adapt them to the real world, whatever that means.
So you've got the hard skills of learning how to use new equipment, and you have, I don't know if the military calls them soft skills, but you've got really highly developed skills about working in a team. There's no organization I can think of where that's not important.
Right.
Of the discipline of getting things done, of the importance of deadlines, and the whole idea of working with other people to make things happen, the idea of you don't have to be a solo contributor, that everything today is integrated. So for those of you who have military backgrounds, you're walking in with organizational gold to any organization you walk into.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's the fun part, to just shine a light on that, because everybody's thinking, oh, I'm in this rut, and it's like, no, not really.
Right.
Yeah. So you've got a workshop coming up really soon. Tell us about that.
I have a workshop called Reinventing Yourself, and it's ambitious, and it's for people who are ambitious, because we're going to start at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and by 3 o'clock you will have explored possibilities for what you might want to do, because some of the people in the workshop will have more or less fuzzy ideas about what it is that they want to do. Lay out what you need to know in order to take those fuzzy ideas to the next step. Figure out the specific questions that you can ask to get people to fill you in on that. A plan for who you're going to talk to, who you can talk to, and the order in which you're going to approach them. We'll also have laid out a bunch of alternatives, and we will take one for the purposes of the workshop. It doesn't need to be the one you're moving ahead with, but for the purposes of the workshop, we're going to take one and go into depth. And for that one, we're going to develop how you're going to introduce yourself. Why is this a logical thing for you to do? Why is it a logical thing for me, the interviewer, to hire you to do? Obviously, that involves a resume as well as a verbal presentation, a cover letter. And by 3 o'clock, we'll have a strategy around all of that.
Oh my gosh.
So
what time does it start?
it starts at 10 in the morning. I didn't want to get people up too early.
5 hours, you're going to give all that value? My
You get some time off for lunch to absorb it all. And because it's a lot to absorb in one day, included in the price of the workshop, you get 1 hour with me, one-on-one, 2 weeks later, to follow up and see where you found their stumbling blocks and what it is that you want to do going forward.
Wow, fantastic. And that is March 16th.
March 16th.
All right. And they'll find it on your website.
Find it on my website.
Yeah.
Maybe they'd like to know the price of it.
Up to you. Sure.
Right,
That might weed out or.
That's $395. And when you consider the normal cost of meeting with me one-on-one and the 5 hours on Saturday, it's a bargain by any description.
Definitely a bargain. Just an hour with this gentleman, you can tell he's got a bunch of knowledge here. So, yeah, fantastic. That's great. It will be in Manhattan?
Yes, it'll be on the Upper East Side.
Okay. All right, fantastic. And then you got to keep checking that website because he's not idle. He's got a lot of stuff going on, and you do talks around. Tell us about your talks?
So the next talk, the next public talk that I'm doing is on the 13th of March, 3 days before the workshop, and it's going to be on one of the most important aspects of a job campaign. Think about it this way. If you need somebody to know the value that you can bring to their organization, listing off a list of accomplishments is a so-so way to convey that information. What people really want to get a feel for is what it's like to work with you. And the easiest way for people to understand what it's like to work with you is to give some examples of what it's been like for other people to work with you. So if you can talk about your experience in a way that conveys to people how you work, not just the result of what you did. Let me give an example.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I could say, I'm a great salesman. Not so convincing, right? Might not be. It's
maybe.
Maybe, yeah. It's like, oh, wow, he's a great salesman. What would it be like to work with him? I have no idea. He'd be a great salesman. So often then people turn to results. I increased sales in a certain product category by 15% year on year for the last 2 years. Okay.
Getting closer.
What's it like to work with him?
Exactly.
I don't know. But he gets results. So we'll hire him, and I might not like working with him, but
we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Better solution. Let me tell you about a time when I really improved sales.
Okay.
Okay.
Now we're getting close, yeah.
I was hired into a new division, and one of my customers hadn't increased their sales order for the last 10 years. Steady customer, but no increase. I kept working with the purchasing department, trying to get them to interested and learn what they needed, and I got nowhere. So I began to think about what I could do. And I went to a conference and met some of their chemical engineers who were working with the products that we sold them. And I began to talk to them. And in talking to them, I learned how they did business, what it is that they needed, and what was important to them. As a result of those conversations, I was able to put together a proposal. And for the last 2 years, we've increased sales in that segment by 15% each year.
Now we know what it's like to work with him. Yeah.
Right. So when you're listening to a story like that, I'm going to pause for a minute and just ask you, what do you know about that person that you didn't know before? You don't just know the results, right? when I ask audiences about this, they say things like, he's takes the extra steps. He's interested in his customers. He overcomes things that appear to be problems. All those are the kinds of conclusions which you as a listener will draw listening to a story. And you want your listeners to draw conclusions like that. I don't have to say in that story that I'm a good salesperson. I don't have to say that I work well with people. I don't have to say that I think outside the box. Because you, the listener, are drawing that conclusion on your own behalf. How could you not want those stories
Brilliant.
and have
Brilliant.
people draw conclusions
Brilliant.
like that on your behalf? So the workshop, which is free and offered at the Science Industry Business Library, which is on 34th and Madison, at 6 o'clock on March 13th, will give you a way to think about those stories and how to begin to construct those stories for yourselves. And if you come with an idea for a story and you want to, you can get a chance to practice it.
Wow. I'm so glad that we got to touch on that, because we only have like 2 minutes or something left. But storytelling has become the preferred way to, and I guess that's the profile thing too. It's the way to get your information across. And wouldn't you rather listen to a story than facts and stats and all of that?
It turns out that the reason it's become popular is because brain science has figured out that this thing on top of our head is a meaning-making machine, and it does not take facts as its input. It takes stories as its input. And if you're telling a story, then this thing does what it's been doing for 10,000 years, which is to produce meaning.
And if you can get something that's a commonality, that's even better. It's like, oh yeah, I did that too, or I wish I had done that, or something like that. So the 13th, I don't know, the 16th sounds fantastic. The 13th is like, if you're going to teach people how to get their stories out there, invaluable, especially in this day and time, because the competition is stiff. And everybody, but your story is your own. You're not competing with your story. That I like the individuality of that and the uniqueness. It's like, yes, everybody might have taken this, I can't even think of a class, a tech class, together. But how you used it or what you've done with it since then, that's your story.
People are
and
very
nobody can take that
interested.
from you.
That's right.
Yeah. And I think you need that edge. But I think, speaking of edges, I think that this gentleman can give you an edge, and he's been doing this for 16 years. And I would say, and I've said it a few thousand times now, check out the website, winsheffield.com. And I'm going to bet that there's going to be something on that website that's going to interest you, or you're going to go, oh, let me just go, because I'm thinking, I'm not really in the job market, but I really would like to know how to do my own story. So I might show up on the 13th. Who knows?
The microcasts address stories as well.
Yeah. So we are out of time, and I just want to thank you, Win. It's been too long between visits. We're going to have you back again, because you just are dynamo and keep it going. So thank you so much for being on the Coaching
It's
Game.
been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.